I drove 3 hours through fog, holding Mom's favorite pie, just to hear my father say, "Don't come back unless you return the $40,000. And just like that, Thanksgiving turned into a courtroom. My name is Madeline Brooks, and I was 35 years old the night my father told me not to come home again. I was still holding the pecan pie, his favorite. I'd made it the night before, using Mom's old recipe, the one with the extra vanilla and the chopped toasted pecans on top, just like she liked it. I'd driven 3 hours from Pittsburgh, through fog and holiday traffic, just to place it on her table like I had every Thanksgiving since I left for college. I thought I was home. I really did. The turkey hadn't been carved yet. The green bean casserole was still bubbling in that old blue dish Mom only ever brought out for special dinners. We hadn't even said grace. And I was still standing there, smiling, holding that pie, when Dad looked at me across the room and said it. "You either give back the 40 grand, or don't bother coming around anymore." At first, I thought he was joking. Dad's not the kind to pull stunts or make a scene, especially not at the dinner table. But no one laughed. Jessica was sitting stiff at the table, hands folded like she was at a wake. Eli wouldn't meet my eyes. Even Mom, quiet, gentle Mom, just stared down at her napkin like she wanted to disappear into it. I didn't sit down. I couldn't. The pie tray was still in my hands, suddenly heavy. I glanced at it like maybe it could explain what the hell was going on. It couldn't. I stood there frozen, pie in my hands, as if I'd wandered into the wrong house by mistake. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice quiet but steady. Dad's jaw clenched. "Don't play dumb, Madeline. The money from your mother's account, $40,000 gone, right after you helped her set up that online banking." For a second, I just blinked. I hadn't expected an accusation, certainly not one this cold, this rehearsed. Jessica finally looked up from the table, mascara smudged under her eyes like she'd been crying earlier. "It was all digital," she said flatly. "The withdrawals started the day after you showed her how to use the app. You're the only one who had access." I couldn't even find my voice. My mouth opened, but no words came. I had helped Mom set up her banking, yes. She'd been nervous about going paperless, about forgetting passwords, so I'd sat with her one Sunday afternoon and walked her through it, step by step. We wrote everything down in a little floral notebook she kept in the kitchen drawer. That was a month ago. I remember because I stayed for dinner afterward. She made pot roast. It had felt like a normal day. Now they were saying that was the day I decided to steal from her. I looked at Mom, waiting, hoping she'd step in and say, "That's not true." But she didn't. She just pressed her napkin to her lips and looked down at her lap. That was the moment it hit me. It wasn't just about the money. It was that they truly believed I had done it. My family didn't see me as Madeline, the daughter. They saw me as a suspect. And that broke something inside me I wasn't sure I could fix. I didn't set the pie down right away. I just stood there, feeling the weight of it in my hands like it might anchor me to something. Anything. But there was nothing left to hold on to. I wasn't their daughter in that moment. I was a problem they'd already decided how to solve. I slowly turned toward the counter and placed the pie down as gently as I could. The metal tin made a soft click against the granite, too quiet for how loud everything felt inside me. "You really think I'd steal from Mom?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. No one answered. Jessica folded her arms like the conversation was over. Eli stared at the salt shaker like he could disappear into it. Mom didn't look at me at all. And Dad, he just stood there, arms crossed, like a disappointed boss waiting for me to admit something I didn't do. "You have until Friday," he said, calm as a contract. "Then we're calling the attorney." I grabbed my coat off the back of the dining chair where I'd set it when I walked in, still thinking this was home, still thinking we'd hug, eat too much, and fight over leftovers. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't slam the door or scream or cry. I just walked out, coat half-buttoned, hands shaking, the smell of rosemary and baked apples clinging to the hallway like something that didn't belong to me anymore. Outside, the street was quiet, porch lights glowing, paper turkeys taped to windows. It was Thanksgiving night, and everywhere smelled like cinnamon and peace, everywhere but inside me. I got in my car, started the engine, and drove. Not toward answers, not yet. Just away. Away from a house that didn't feel like mine anymore. I ended up at a little roadside inn just off the highway, one of those places with flickering vacancy signs and vending machines that still take quarters. I'd passed it 100 times on trips home, never once thinking I'd actually stay there. But that night, it felt like the only place in the world that didn't expect anything from me. The clerk didn't ask questions when I handed over my ID. I was grateful for that. I didn't have the energy to pretend I was just traveling through or on a business trip. The room smelled faintly of old carpet and microwave popcorn. I dropped my bag by the door, kicked off my boots, and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floral comforter like it might offer some kind of answer. My hands were still shaking. I couldn't believe it. I was 35 years old. I'd spent the last 10 years building a career in forensic accounting, working high-profile cases, trusted with millions in corporate audits. I was known for finding the truth, for following the numbers no one else could see. And somehow, my own family thought I'd stolen $40,000 from my mother. The worst part? I wasn't even shocked, hurt, yes, but not surprised. There had always been little signs. The way Jessica rolled her eyes when Mom bragged about my job. The way Dad once asked if maybe it was time I settled down and lived a little. Like my life wasn't real until I had a mortgage and a husband. Even Eli's joke last Christmas when I offered to help fix their leaky roof. "Trying to buy your way into sainthood?" he'd said. I thought we were teasing. I thought we were still family. Maybe I was wrong. I lay back on the bed, staring up at the ceiling fan as it spun in slow, lazy circles. My mind replayed that Sunday afternoon a month ago, when Mom asked me to help her go paperless. I remembered showing her how to log in, how to set up two-step verification, how to check her balance with just a tap. She was nervous, but curious, proud of herself for learning something new. We even laughed when she forgot her first password and had to write it down in that little floral notebook she kept in the kitchen drawer. That notebook. It was never locked away. Anyone could have opened it. Jessica still lived at home most of the time, floating between jobs and apartments. Eli had a spare key and came and went like it was still his house. I'd walked Mom through the setup, sure, but I wasn't the only one who knew how it worked. Still, they believed it. Believed I had waited for Mom to get vulnerable, then swooped in and stole from her. As if I needed it. As if I would, ever. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from Jessica lit up the screen. "We didn't want it to come to this, but you made it hard to trust you." That was it. No apology. No, "Are you okay?" Just that, like I was the one who broke something. I turned the phone face down. At work, I spend my days untangling complex fraud. Shell companies, ghost vendors, buried trails of money. I know what it looks like when someone manipulates the numbers and makes it look like someone else's fault. And right now, that's exactly what this felt like. Someone wanted a scapegoat, and they'd decided it would be me. Maybe it was time I investigated this like I would any other case. I woke up early the next morning without an alarm. Just instinct. Years of tracking corporate fraud had wired me that way. When something didn't add up, I couldn't sleep until I found the missing piece. I poured myself a cup of bitter lobby coffee and opened my laptop on the small desk by the window. The sun was just starting to rise over the parking lot, lighting up the frost on car hoods like a warning. My firm had been investigating a string of elder financial abuse cases, retirees with modest savings who suddenly had their accounts drained in a specific pattern. 3 cash withdrawals, spaced a few days apart, each just under the federal reporting limit. Different banks, but one kept popping up more than the others. West Shore Credit Union. Mom's bank. I hadn't told my family I was part of that case. Confidentiality, mostly. But I had clearance to review internal data. So I sent a message to Theo, our compliance officer. Just a name, a date range, and a location. An hour later, I had what I needed. Timestamps, transaction amounts, teller logs. 3 withdrawals from Mom's account, spaced 5 days apart. First for $18,000, then $12,000, and finally $10,000. All done in person, not online. That was the first break. They'd accused me of taking the money digitally. But these weren't online transfers. These were face-to-face withdrawals at the counter. That meant someone walked into the bank with Mom's ID and took that money out, and it wasn't me. My heart started to race. I clicked the link to the attached security footage. The first video loaded. Low resolution, grainy, but clear enough. A woman approached the teller counter, glancing over her shoulder, sunglasses on, hoodie pulled tight. I leaned forward, and then I saw her. Jessica. Even through the grainy footage, I recognized her. Jessica always had this nervous habit, tapping her fingers on any surface when she was anxious. And there she was, fidgeting at the teller window, handing over what looked like Mom's driver's license, signing a form without hesitation. Her handwriting hadn't changed since high school. I watched as she pulled her mask down to speak, giving the teller a better look at her face. No doubt. It was her. I paused the video and sat back, heart thudding in my chest. They hadn't just stolen the money. They'd planned it, timed it, waited until I helped Mom go digital so they could use that as their cover. I opened the second clip. This time it was Eli. No disguise, no nervous energy. He walked in like he belonged there, made a joke with the teller, and withdrew $12,000 like it was no big deal. I didn't even need to watch the third clip to know what I'd find. But I did. Jessica, again. Same hoodie, different sunglasses, same signature. They were bold, arrogant, certain no one would question them, not if they all pointed the finger at me. I leaned back, staring at the flickering motel ceiling light. But there was still one piece missing. How had they gotten access to Mom's ID and banking info? And then I remembered. 2 weeks before I helped Mom go online, she'd gone in for outpatient scans. Nothing serious. Jessica had stayed overnight with her at the hospital. Mom's purse had been with her the entire time. Checkbook, bank statements, ID. That's where it started. I checked the metadata from the first login after I left town. It didn't come from Mom's phone. It came from a tablet connected to the home Wi-Fi. Jessica's tablet. And the recovery phone number? It belonged to Eli. They weren't just sloppy. They were confident. Recklessly so. They thought no one would question it. Not if the family already had a convenient suspect. Not if the successful daughter, the one with the complicated job and the out-of-town apartment, could be painted as greedy or disconnected. I closed my laptop and stared at the little folder I kept in my suitcase, the black one I used for presentations in court. That night, it became something else. Not just evidence. It became my line in the sand. I didn't call the police. Not yet. I called Theo back instead, asked him for a copy of the teller's signature logs. I'd need them for comparison. Then I printed everything I had. Photos, dates, metadata, IP logs, even the recovery email addresses. I organized it like I would for a client. Not for revenge, not even for justice, just for the truth. Monday afternoon, just as the sun dipped into that golden haze it always had between Halloween and Christmas, I drove back to Greenville. The light used to make the house feel warm, safe. But not today. The driveway was packed. Eli's truck, Jessica's car, Mom's old sedan. No guests. Just family. I parked at the curb, turned off the engine, and let my hands rest on the folder in my lap. For a second I hesitated, but then I thought of that message. You made it hard to trust you, and I remembered how no one asked me if I did it. They just decided. I stepped out of the car and walked up the porch steps, folder tucked under my arm, heart steady. I didn't knock. I walked in like I belonged, because once, not that long ago, I did. Inside, the kitchen lights were on, and they were all there, laughing, eating, like nothing had happened. But everything had. I stepped into the kitchen, and the room fell quiet, like someone had flipped a switch. Jessica was perched on the counter, legs swinging, coffee mug in hand like it was just another morning. Eli leaned against the fridge with his arms crossed, avoiding my eyes. Mom stood at the sink, drying dishes slowly, like she was trying to make the moment last a little longer. Dad was at the stove, stirring something in a pot. The scent of chicken broth and rosemary filled the room, warm, familiar, and completely out of place. No one said a word. I walked straight to the kitchen island and set the black folder down, right on the smooth surface where we used to roll out cookie dough. I opened it slowly. You believed I stole from Mom, I said quietly, not looking at anyone yet. So, let me show you what really happened. I pulled out the first photo, Jessica at the bank counter, sunglasses, hoodie, signature, dated October 10th, $18,000. This wasn't online, I said. It wasn't me. I laid down the second, Eli, smiling, handing over a withdrawal slip. October 15th, $12,000. Then the third, Jessica again. Same teller, same handwriting, same pattern. Jessica's grip tightened on her mug, but she didn't speak. Eli's gaze dropped to the floor. I added the teller slips and laid them beside a note Jessica had written on Mom's fridge last week. Same signature, I said. Mom turned from the sink, her hand still holding the towel. Her voice shook. But the bank said it was online. That's what they thought, I replied. But the login didn't come from her phone. It came from a tablet on your Wi-Fi. And the recovery number? I looked at Eli. It was yours. Silence settled over the kitchen like a heavy blanket, thick, suffocating. No one moved. No one spoke. Dad slowly set the spoon down, his shoulders stiff. Jessica stared at the counter like she could make herself disappear. Eli still wouldn't look up. Mom stepped closer, her eyes on the papers spread out like puzzle pieces. She picked one up, Jessica's signature, and held it with shaking hands. You let me believe that my daughter stole from me? She whispered, not looking at anyone in particular. Maybe not even me. You told me not to come home, I said, softer now. and not one of you asked if it was true. That was the part that hurt most. Not the accusation, not the silence, but the fact that they never gave me a chance to speak. Jessica finally looked at me. Her voice was tight, bitter. You always get everything, Madeline. The career, the praise, the respect. I just wanted a level playing field. I studied her for a moment. She looked smaller than I remembered, or maybe I was finally seeing her clearly. You didn't level the field, I said. You burned it. Eli cleared his throat. She'll be fine, Mom, he muttered. Madeline makes more than all of us combined. It wasn't personal. I let out a breath, slow and steady. It's always personal when it's family. Mom sat down at the table, her hands resting in her lap, palms up like she didn't know what to do with them. Dad turned toward me, his voice quieter than before. Madeline, what are you going to do? I met his eyes, and for the first time in days, I didn't feel like the child in the room. I'm not pressing charges, I said, but I've already sent the file to the family attorney. Dad gave a slow nod, eyes heavy. I closed the folder and zipped it shut with a calm I wasn't sure I'd earned yet. My hands moved on their own, muscle memory from years of closing out meetings, finalizing audits, sealing things that couldn't be undone. You told me not to come back unless I returned the money, I said, voice steady. I didn't take the money, but I brought the truth. I waited just long enough for the weight of those words to settle. Then I turned and walked to the door. Madeline, Mom's voice cracked behind me. I paused, one hand on the doorknob. Thanksgiving's over, I said quietly. You all made sure of that. I left without another word. I didn't take the pie. I didn't take the folder, just my coat. And whatever part of me was still holding out hope that they would have chosen to believe in me. I sat in the car for a while, staring at the window above the kitchen sink, waiting to see if anyone would follow. No one did. And that told me more than anything else. Back in Pittsburgh, I went back to work. I stopped answering family group texts, stopped calling on Sundays. Instead, I started teaching a weekend class at the local community center, financial protection for seniors. It wasn't flashy, but it mattered. One Saturday, a woman came up after class and said, I wish I had a daughter like you. I smiled politely. I didn't say what I was thinking, just, so did mine. Sometimes the people you love choose a version of you that isn't true, and once they do, they can't unchoose it. So you stop waiting to be believed and start living like the truth is enough.